Well, let's start off with welcome everybody. Welcome to our first Breezy interview. Breezy interviews are part of Erudita's summer school program where we interview content creators that are part of the community or interesting. Well, everybody's interesting in their own way, but yeah. So we have here our original co-working streamer, Queen Rumple. How's your day been?
My day has
Mhm.
been pretty good so far. It is the weekend, so obviously I have time on my hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love the weekend and we love not working on the weekend.
We love not working on the weekend. We love not studying on the weekend,
True,
which is,
true.
yeah, something I'm very happy I can say now.
Yeah, speaking of not working or not studying on the weekend, when you were a student, did you ever have like Saturday classes or weekend classes, like even Sunday? Did you ever have that unfortunate experience? Because I know
No,
I did.
I was very fortunate. I never had those kind of classes. I never opted for those classes. I don't even know if they existed. So I went to like several different unis and I never saw classes that were covered over the weekend. I was always very precious about like my downtime, my free time. Um, and even during the holidays as well, like I wouldn't want to take extra classes over the holidays. I know some people do that and like mad respect to those people that can
Yeah.
take extra classes, earn those extra credits, but I definitely needed a break from uni. Like personally, like I think I put maybe too much energy during term time, and so I needed that
Mhm.
recovery afterwards. So yeah, I didn't take classes over the weekends, but I definitely studied over the weekends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, understandable. And honestly, I envy you. Like, I had in my first year of uni, I had my required Sunday. Like, it was one subject, and it's like national service something, service to the country, so to speak. And it was
Oh
so
wow.
annoying. And it was required to be on a Sunday. I'm like, Lord, that's why it was mildly weird to me that there are countries that did not have weekend classes. I'm like, I wish my country did that too. Yeah, I'm just very happy that you know to value your free time because some students I've met just don't or just don't know how to, and it's a whiplash sort of where like this feels wrong.
Yeah, I think
Mhm,
yeah, it was a lesson like that I learned. I think when I was quite young. I mean, just time management in general, or just like
mhm,
knowing what to do with myself.
mhm,
So like in some schools and from some like people I've heard from, every part of their day will be like dictated to them, like do this, now do this, now do this, and they don't really have to make decisions themselves about how
mhm,
to spend their own time. But during my high school, for a period of time, I went to a boarding school, and it really taught me a lot of like independence. And I carried that through, I think, into my sixth form and then into university, like learning how to like know what to do with myself when I have free time, or like not just free time, but like knowing how to like organize myself and my day,
mhm.
knowing what works best for me. But it was definitely a process that like I had to learn and I had to like refine, and I'm still refining. I'm still doing it right now. In fact, even more so now because I'm not studying anymore, because like I don't have an assignment or a deadline. I'm like, okay, what do I do with myself? So that's something like that's a new change recently as well.
Right. Well, so you learned young, and that's so important. I didn't like it was always like grind or you're left behind.
Yeah.
It's a cultural difference as well, I think. Like it depends on the culture you grew up in and things
Hmm.
like that. I do have a question. So I know you've stated your what you've studied in your about me
Hmm.
and you've stated it multiple times, but let's go over it again.
Hmm.
Like what was your undergrad and how did you decide on going into this, like deciding on the actual undergrad you're gonna take? So
Mm.
mhm,
So yeah, good question. I think so. I studied linguistics for 4 years in my undergrad. I specialized in psycholinguistics and then computational linguistics. So, like, at the time, I was very much in the mindset of, oh, I should study the things that I am interested in, and I should go to university and study something that I like love or that I want to learn about without really thinking about career.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was looking, so during sixth form, which is like the last 2 years of high school in the UK, you're
Uh-huh.
obviously like making a lot of decisions about what to study so that you can then use those subjects to go into university with. And you can only go into certain courses if you have learned certain subjects previously in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So like really early on, you have to decide like, what am I going to study when I'm 16, 17, so then I can know what I'm going to study when I'm 18 to 20. So you have to make these decisions really early. And I
Nice.
was kind of in the situation where I could have studied anything. Like it wasn't like one thing was particularly stood out to me, and I
Mm-hmm.
had like this big option, and in a way that was like maybe unhelpful. So it took me a long time to decide that I wanted to take linguistics. I didn't even know what linguistics was until like very like in the final year, and I was just flicking through like a brochure of subjects, and I didn't know what linguistics was, so I had to look it up, and I read about it, and I was like, this is for me. It's multidisciplinary. It combines science. It combines like literature. It combines like the brain. There's all sorts of ways it can go. And I was like, cool. I've decided like I like it. This is what I want to study. And I remember making that decision because like I said, I was interested, and that was like the driving force. And I think that came from
Mm-hmm.
quite a maybe like a privileged position of, oh, I don't need to think about like career. I don't need to think of, well, I was thinking about money at the time, but I don't know, like
It wasn't the deciding
romanticizing.
factor.
Say again?
It was money was not the deciding factor, like the
It
money.
wasn't, because I think, my parents tried to encourage me to do what I love, which is an amazing kind of driving force. But I remember a conversation with my sister near the time when I was applying for university, and she was like, do you know what career path this will lead you to? Like, what jobs are available after this degree? And I was like, like translator or language
Mm-hmm.
teacher or whatever. Like, I'm not really interested, but it doesn't matter. And I think in hindsight, I wish I was a little bit more strategic about what topic I studied at uni,
Mm-hmm.
because as I went through the years, I realized, okay, year three is coming. I finished in year four. So year three coming, like, what am I doing after this? Right? Like, what can I do with this degree? Like, it taught me a lot of different things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of a profession or like applying for a job, like I had no idea. And that really kind of concerned me at the time. And so I made the choice to kind of steer my subject into a place that I thought was more like uh, that I'd be in a better position to get a job afterwards, basically. So that's why I chose to do computational linguistics, um, because I didn't want to be a researcher, didn't want to be translator, didn't want to be a language teacher. So I was like, okay, I'll work in like tech because that seems promising to my 20-year
Mm-hmm.
old self. I was like, this seems okay. This seems like a good path to take. And I was lucky enough that I was actually interested in the subject as well, like computational linguistics. Ooh, sorry, like it still fascinates me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, it was just I'm grateful that like I'm interested in the subject. I was interested in computational linguistics, and there are also job prospects afterwards. So like it was a happy accident basically. Um, but yeah, I think my like naivety at the start of, oh, it will all be fine, it will all work out, whatever subject I take, I think it's fine to be a bit more practical. I think maybe I looked down a bit on only thinking, like, not only, but I think I looked down a bit on considering career and money as part of my decision. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's also something you should consider.
Okay, so that actually goes into what my next question would have been, which was, what did you feel towards the end of your undergrad? So, you did mention that, hmm, what am I going to do after this? I think that's a common, even for people that are set in the, I will do this, I will study this, I will take this job after studying this,
Yeah.
and then suddenly when they're close to the end of their studies, they're like, either they, can I really do this, or I think I chose the wrong field. Where am I going with this? So
Yeah.
um, you had that feelings too, even though you were kind of confident with your undergrad choice.
Yeah, I think that's a really,
Hmm.
well, common feeling. At least a lot of people I've spoken to also share that feeling of coming towards
Hmm.
the end of your degree or finishing your degree and thinking, crap, like, what did I do for the last 3 to 4 years? Like, I'm in the real
Yeah,
world
yeah.
now. Like, how can I use this degree? Like, what do I do with linguistics? I think
Hmm.
it's so common. And I think, like, okay, like two things. One is that doing a degree, like what at least for the universities I went to, a lot of it's just geared towards doing research, right? Like
Hmm.
it, university is it's an academic place, and the degree teaches you how to be an academic, right? Like how to write properly, how to do proper experiments, good
Hmm.
practices, and those are all really valuable. But I feel like that the idea is that okay, you'll continue studying. Like they're really good if you want to do a PhD afterwards and continue in academia.
Yeah.
Um, they're not courses that provide, well, some of them, but for the majority, they're not courses that put you straight into a job. They're not like they're like courses you can take, right? That will take you right into a profession. But I think a lot of
Hmm.
university degrees like don't do that. But at least when I was younger, I was like, oh no, that's what you do. Like you take a degree, you get a job. But actually, those two things aren't necessarily related. Like some of them are.
Yeah.
Some university courses like have internships combined in them. They have career experience combined in them, and I think that's amazing. And if you have the opportunity to take those extra experiences,
Uh-huh.
like career experiences, like job experiences, like I wish I had taken them. Um, so yeah, I feel like that's partly what we're all led to believe and like what I was told when I was younger. Um, so that's just kind of the way it is. So if I could talk back to my younger self and if I could talk to you guys like who are making these decisions now, like just be aware of this.
Hmm.
And I think the other side is like you can't change the past, right? Like I chose my
True.
linguistics degree. I enjoyed quite a lot of it. And I like regret is a strong feeling. And I think I don't regret my degree. I learned a lot from it, and it
Hmm.
took me to the path where I am today. And I made sure to make choices that like you always have a choice, right? Like if you took that difficult degree and you're now in
Yeah.
a position where you're like, oh, what am I doing? I think you have choices. Like it's never too late to try something new. People change their careers all the time. Um,
Hmm.
like you can take a different path. I took a different path. I'm here where I am now, and I imagine in 10 years time I will be on a different path. And that's totally fine. Like take the stuff with you that you've learned and apply it to wherever you go next.
That's a great way to kind of both motivate but also keep the kids. Sorry, the kids thinking practically. Like you're motivating them to pursue what they actually want, but also
Mm,
making them realize you got to be practical with it. I think
fact.
that's the most blunt way of putting it, but it's also the most apt. Like
Mm,
like I took psychology.
mm-hmm,
I do not work anywhere near that field. Yeah, you have a better grasp of your own time, of the value of your time, and also I don't know, you looked at it a lot more practically than I did, which is great, which is great.
it's a learning process, right? Like,
Yeah, it's incredible to hear because how did I meet you? I was new to Twitch at the time when I met you around 2 years ago. I was in a streamer's chat and they were like, "Hey, let's raid Rumple." I think they raided you, or they directed chat to just join your channel, and I was like, "Oh, she's doing the same thing as this other guy. She's studying or working. I wasn't sure what you were doing at the time, but
Mm,
you were like on your computer and your camera was here
doing something, who knows?
doing something. Yes,
Probably watching another Twitch streamer.
could be, could be because we thought this Twitch streamer that I was with at yeah that I was watching at the time was also watching another Twitch streamer. I'm like, is this really how it goes? Is this how it is? Like I thought you were
Sorry.
doing something. You were studying, but
It's a big scam, if I'm honest. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I worked really hard on stream. Mhm.
yeah, and that's actually a question I wanted to ask you. Like, how did you find out about streaming, or how did you get
Mm,
interested in Twitch? Let's start with that. How did you get
yeah.
interested in Twitch?
So that is really tied to my studies and, of course,
Hmm.
COVID, right? The big C. So when COVID hit, it was what, 2019? Um,
Yeah, end of
I
2019.
remember it first, it was in the summer. And so this was my final year of my course. A lot
Mhm.
of my uh, subjects were impacted. I didn't have exams. I stopped going into the library. I only had coursework, and the coursework that I had was like turned into pass fail. So it was kind of like my degree like fizzled out towards the end. It was very anticlimactic. I didn't get that like big celebration at the end with my classmates. It kind of just
Mm.
ended at home. Anyway, I remember thinking at the time, I think it was maybe like the winter before like the spring, being like, oh, I really miss being able to go into the library or being able to go into like spaces where I'm surrounded by people and I study. I don't necessarily like want to talk to anyone, but I really work well with other people around me. It kind of makes me feel more accountable. Like I won't go on Facebook or I won't like go on YouTube or something. And I really miss that, like especially having to just like work at home all day, like study at home all day and
Mhm.
write my essays. And so I saw or it was study with me content on YouTube, but that was mostly just creators like recording themselves for like say 3 hours at their desk with like pretty lighting and music.
Mhm.
And I wasn't that keen on it. Like I never used them because I never felt like they would help because it was just the idea was that you put the video on and you would work. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't do that because it's just a video. Like there's no one actually there. I was like, okay, well, I'll just do it myself. Like, oh, and I knew about Twitch because I watched Andrew JRT on YouTube. He has a Twitch channel. That was like my only
Mhm.
connection was like through Overwatch. And I
Ah,
watched like
Overwatch. Okay.
one channel on Twitch, maybe once a month or something. It was very tenuous. And I did stream a little bit of games. Like I tried it myself,
Hmm.
didn't really like it, kind of stopped. And I was like, well, I have this thing that I know about. Let me try streaming my work, my study. Because
Okay.
again, like no one else on Twitch was really doing study streaming. Maybe there was like one or
Mhm.
two people that I saw. Um, but again, like for me, watching another person like still didn't do it. Like it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough accountability, and I was like, you know what, I need someone watching me. So I then started streaming myself in my little room on my laptop. My poor laptop,
Mhm.
it struggled a lot, but I would stream on it and write my essays and study, and that's how it all started. Um,
Oh
and
God,
yeah, and it
laptop
grew from
life.
there. Hmm?
Laptop life.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I moved quickly on from the laptop to a computer.
Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
you were able to. I'm still on the laptop.
Oh, bless. Give it a pat for
Yeah.
me.
Yes, yes. Like, and
Yeah.
this is a hand me down because this was my brother's, but I'm just so glad that the laptop that he got was a workhorse basically because he's a designer. He's interior design, and all of his equipment have to be able to process really well. He does AutoCAD, he does rendering work. So this laptop is a gigantic workhorse, and I'm glad, or else
Damn.
it's dead. Or else it's dead. But yeah. So so your reasoning why you started co-working, or yeah, streaming your work, streaming what you're doing, is so that you have someone watching over you and making sure that you're doing your job. Is that
Yeah. Yeah, no, basic.
okay?
Okay, when you put it that way, that's what makes it sound kind of weird. But yeah, like I didn't like being by myself writing my essays, and
Mm,
at the time I also had a part-time job, um, which also required me. It was remote, it was online, and
okay.
I really didn't like doing it by myself. I just like to be around other people, and it was a nice opportunity as well to kind of just like have some human connection during the pandemic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So it got me
Yeah.
through the end of my degree. I graduated, and
Hmm.
then had another gap year where I did some work, and
Hmm.
then continued streaming through that, and then streaming also through my masters. So it helped me both with work and with studying.
So you were also like, you had a part-time job.
Yeah,
This was around the time you were also still studying undergrad
yeah,
when you had your part-time. Oh, I see.
yeah. So I had
How
a
was?
part-time job
Uh-huh.
throughout.
Oh, I see. So how was that balancing? Although then again, yes, you were. Yes, this was the pandemic. It's slightly different compared to a few years ago
Mm.
when people say they have a part-time job, they're like working at a restaurant or something, and they're also studying. How was it for you that you were working?
Mm.
I can't use the this
No,
because
it was
that's
real
just because you were actually working. I'm like, why am I up?
work.
So you were
Yeah,
working, you were also studying, but it was the pandemic. So how was that for you?
yeah. It was a lot. I mean, things kind of staggered, so it wasn't too much all at once. But
Mm-mm.
well, I take that back. At one period, it was too much. Maybe I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So yeah, so for my undergrad, I had this part-time job. Kind of the hours changed a lot, because it was to do with linguistics. It was like data entry work. I was looking at different languages, looking at
Mm-hmm.
grammar and stuff, and just answering questions. Um, and so it was all done online, and I was quite grateful that I basically picked up on this job in my first year, and it has stop doing this. I picked up this job in my first year, and I like carried it on throughout my entire course. So I had
Mm-hmm.
some kind of like stable income throughout. I Yeah, it really really helped. Um, I will say if an opportunity comes along, just take it, guys. Like, what have you got to lose? Take it, because I was not going to apply for this job. I thought, I'm not qualified. This is definitely not for me. I turned up and it was exactly for me, and I was exactly the kind of person they were looking for. So believe in yourself, like, go for it if you want to. So yeah, if I didn't take that opportunity, like, it would have been, I think, a lot tougher during uni, like finding different
Mm-hmm.
jobs, because this also was remote work before it was cool. It was remote work. I could work whenever I
Mm-hmm.
wanted. Um, and so that meant that I could balance studying and working. And
Mm-hmm.
then when streaming came along, I still had this job. I kind of stopped
Oh, okay.
studying, still had this job. So I was doing that work while streaming. And then, so that was my gap year. And then during my master's, I think it got a bit too much, basically. Like, I started my master's thinking, oh, like, I'll be able to keep up this part-time job, keep up streaming, and do this insanely challenging master's all at the same time. And I lesson hard learned. Like, there aren't infinite hours in the day. Um, it was tough, and so I had to quit my job,
Uh-huh.
um, because I decided to quit my job and not quit streaming, because streaming also brought in money and I could study at the same time. So I was like, you know what? Like, this seems like the logical solution. Um, and yeah, I had built up a really like amazing community at the time, and it was just so much fun to stream. Like, I didn't want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was a lot of work streaming and studying, particularly for that masters. But yeah, it helped in a lot of ways. but it was also a lot of work and took a lot
Mhm.
of time. Um,
That's
yeah.
so that's what people don't realize. Streaming actually takes a lot of work. Um, takes a lot of
A little
mental
bit.
space too, especially if you're on camera all the time. Like sometimes you feel like, do I put make, especially as a female, do I put makeup on? Do I don't? Do I look presentable? Is my face like, especially for me, I have a round face. Is my face puffy again? Because I have a tendency to puff up. And
Uh-huh,
it's like,
uh-huh.
ah, like today, I was like, I just got home. I was like, holy crap, I we have an interview. I need to prepare. I'm like, I will be on camera. I'm like, Rumple will always be presentable, but what about me? Like my brain just went
Oh, man,
all the
honest.
ways of poo. But yeah,
What?
it's a normal thing to feel a little when you're even in front of people or in front of a camera, whether it's a
Yeah.
live stream like this or recorded. I remember having to record an interview for a job because we couldn't do it in person. So I was like, or it wasn't even a recorded interview. It was just here's the questions, answer the questions, and in video. I'm like, okay. So so you had to let go of your part-time job, and it's amazing to hear that you let go of the part-time job instead of streaming, because I can
Mm.
attest that
Yeah.
yes, the community was incredible. Although yeah, I think I was later. You were already streaming for maybe about a year. I don't remember if it was
Yeah.
already your anniversary or if you've already had an anniversary when I joined. But basically, I joined 2020, so 2021. I started watching you around September 2021, so probably. And I remember one of the reasons why I remember because my best friend said, huh, "Your hair kind of looks like Nezuko's hair." I remember you cosplayed her, and my hair right now is
Oh,
like this.
yes. Oh, good times. Yeah, I really want to grow it out again. That time was
Are you
nice. That
planning
time
to?
was fun. Yeah, no, I want to grow it out again. I miss my long hair.
Like
Yeah,
you are so adorable with the short hair. Like
you like it?
when you cut it first time, I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
she's so cute. And I was like,
But you're too
but I
thin.
kind of miss you with long hair. But also, you do you. But also, goddamn, you're pretty. Oh, woo. I see. Saw that reaction. I have that same reaction. Like sometimes when we hear that from people, it's like, mm, okay, thanks. It's the awkward thank you. But
Mm.
did it ever like I know you're working now. Did streaming help you gain more confidence in yourself?
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
Yes. I don't know how much I notice the difference,
Uh-huh.
but I think because I didn't have a job. Well, I didn't have the kind of job that I have now before, so I can't tell if I would have been different before. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense? Like I don't have a prior to compare it to because, like I said, the work that I did before was mostly online. It was like remote, so I didn't really see my colleagues in person that much. Um, but I think, yeah, I think I want to say it did help. I mean, just talking to strangers, basically. Like it's different because it's not quite face to face. So in
Yeah.
person it is very different. But I think yeah, probably did give me a lot of confidence. I'm still quite shy in person. Don't be fooled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think what also really helped though with the job that I have now was the like working with my fellow classmates at uni like that
Mm-hmm.
because it feels the type of work that I do now feels so similar to the stuff that I did during uni. It kind of almost feels like an extension of that. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody hates team assignments and pair work and any kind of coursework that involves working with another human being. But listen, like unless you have some rare job where you never interact with another person, which they do exist, most of the time you're going to be speaking and working with a team. And those team skills are so valuable. Like, not only in like does team, like, does pair work and coursework with other people let you learn how to get on with other people better, it also teaches you how you work in a team, like how you work with other people and what is best for you. Like, I was lucky enough to, like, I tried out different, like, partners in coursework. I had, like, different partners, right? um
Mhm.
and
I
like
love the
each of them was,
clarification there.
yes, as a coursework partner. um and each of them was different. They were different in their own way. They had their own quirks. They had their own way of working, and it was
Mhm.
so valuable for me to learn that. I was like, oh, people work differently. Like, not everybody works like how I work, and
Mhm.
we need to navigate this in order to be successful. And more importantly, I know that this is the type of person that I don't work well with, or this is the type of person that I do work well with, and this is how I need to navigate, like, this team relationship if this ever comes up again. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think those moments during my master's degree really transferred into the work that I do now, because I am working with other people on a regular basis. I need to, like, like, compromise with them. I need to communicate with them. Um,
Mhm.
like, also stand up for myself in certain situations, which I haven't, like, that hasn't have to happen yet. But, like, I'm sure, you
It
gotta,
might.
don't let yourself be stepped on and, like, trampled on. Respect yourself. Like, fight for what you think your worth is. um like, all of these things are really valuable to learn, and you can learn them at uni.
Have the have the decency to make sure that yourself you can take care of yourself first, because that's important when you're studying, when you're and after studying, when you're working. It will matter a lot, and I'm glad that you took that much, like, you know how to interact with people, you know how, both the actual studying, in person, and then also, um, interacting online has helped you figure out how you work with people, and what type of people you're happy to work with,
Mm.
what type of people you will need to work with, even
Yeah,
if you don't want to.
and they're all
And
going to be different from you.
like, if they're the same, it's kind of scary. Like, have you ever met a person, like, while you're studying or you're working? Have you ever met a person who feels like they're exactly like you, but it's also so uncanny that it's so creepy, but you can't seem to
No,
hate
I've
them? Okay.
never come across that. I come across somebody that works in a similar way to me, and we
Hmm. Hmm.
did, like, another piece of coursework together. We were like, we work well together. Let's do this again, because we
Oh,
have similar working patterns, and it just, we gelled.
nice.
Um,
That's a good thing to know. Like, when
yeah, it's
you
a good thing
gel
to
with
be.
people.
Yeah, it's good to also just know how to recognize that as well. I will
Hmm.
say, like, about the whole self-worth thing and learning all these things, I am still learning. I by no means, like, am able to stand up for myself, like, 24/7. Like, I make blunders at work. I make communication blunders all the time. It's I'm still very much learning, very much navigating, like, being in this whole new environment in a workplace. Um, but yeah, it's just, I've been lucky that these experiences I've had previously at uni, like, I can take them with me. We grow, we
That,
continue.
yeah. Let's kind of go back to you studying. This time, your masters. Could you kind of not explain, but give us, like, again, the why did you go for your master's computational linguistics? Was it Master of Science
My
in? Hmm.
mm, so my master's was about speech processing. Um,
Hmm.
so it combined linguistics, comp sci, machine learning,
Mm.
um, and it's very much geared towards, like, it's a quite niche topic. Um, and so there's quite a clear, like, expectations of what you'll do afterwards, right? You learn very specific skills. It's not just, like, general machine learning. It's like machine learning for language, like natural language processing, speech processing. You also have, like, learn linguistics, all these different things. um, and it is very tailored. And that's part of the
Hmm.
reason that I took it, is because, like I said before, after my linguistics degree, I was like, what do you do with linguistics? And so this is what I decided to do with linguistics, was to learn more and to add to it so that
Mm-hmm.
I could have like a nice, clear career afterwards. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this was the only masters that I applied for. It was the only uni that I applied for. Like so I was
Oh,
like, this is what I want to do. I'll try again next year if I don't get in. So luckily I did. Um, so yeah, I didn't really have a backup plan thinking about it.
oh,
But yeah, that's
okay.
why I took it, because like it was also interesting to me. Like the potential for like what you can do afterwards, I was like, that's really cool. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able
Mm-hmm.
to like help people with the tech that I make and the things that I like design. So yeah, there was lots of potential, lots of interest, and yeah, I like the
So
uni.
you said there's tech, like there's machine learning as part of your
Mm-hmm.
um, masters. So um, it, is your master's program something that has it has a thesis, right? You have so
Yeah.
would you mind telling us like what your thesis was about?
Yes, I can tell you about my thesis.
Okay.
So our thesis projects were all like experiment based. The
Hmm.
idea is that um, you don't need to like fully design like a new model or a new architecture or anything, but the point is that
Hmm.
you have run some experiments, and you have a write up at the end that is presented like a research project. Um,
Hmm.
and you don't get graded on the code. They don't see the code, thankfully. They just see the paper at the end, and you design it as if it's like a submittable paper. Um, so my thesis was on, oh my god, you're asking me. It's so long ago. It feels so long ago. My thesis was on child speech classification. It was on cleft. Oh yeah, cleft palate severity classification in children's speech, which sounds very specific. Um,
It
the
does sound
motivation
very
behind
specific.
it, the motivation behind it is so cleft palate is uh,
Yeah.
a birth defect, and it makes it difficult to speak and swallow, and it comes with all sorts of other problems. And part of the assessment process is assessing the severity of the nasality of speech, which is just basically like sounds very nasal.
Hmm.
And making that assessment can be quite uh, laborious and time consuming and difficult for speech therapists in different languages. Like children might not have access to different speech therapists in their own language, for instance. So there's all sorts of benefits to automating this process,
Okay.
ensuring that that you have like accurate and reliable classification of these different nasality severities. Um, and so I looked into basically that process. So there's already research out there that has like neural networks and different machine learning architecture to make those classifications.
Hmm.
And I just built on top of what was already there. I looked a bit more into different architecture. I ran some experiments on some data that was very difficult to obtain. Um,
Hmm.
it was very difficult, and I actually had to extend my thesis for 2 months, which was um, challenging. Um, but I managed to finish it, and it was okay. Results were kind of neither here nor there, but that's kind of what you expect with some of these projects. Like, you might not get a breakthrough, but any result, any experiment done well is worthwhile. Like, that's what I also learned as well. Even if you don't like prove your hypothesis, that's still
Hmm.
valuable to know. And I learned a
Yep.
lot about like, the ethics about data and children's privacy and things like that.
Processing data of an individual, even if it's just one individual, is very can I do this? Can I do that? Can I use this in public? Which part of their information do I censor?
Mm-hmm.
It's a yeah, it's a always a big question of ethics. But I'm it's interesting to know that you actually focused on people, children that that had cleft palates, because
Mm.
aren't there there are degrees not just of the nasality of the sound, but also like how big the cleft is. Like some of them just have a really small break in their palate. Some of them
Mhm.
have almost a whole missing hard palate.
Mhm.
So, so did you uh, did you work on? Did you actually work with the kids, like to get the data that you needed, or it was
No,
all
that would have
uh,
been too. That would have
okay?
taken too long. Yeah. The
Ah,
idea is that there's already data available when we start our projects,
mm-hmm.
so that we don't have to
Ah,
do that
okay,
data
okay.
collection process, which can be very laborious, as I found out the hard way.
Mm.
Um, yeah, no, there was data from a charity called Smile Train. I managed to get
I
from
see.
them. It was very good.
I see. Okay, so that explains, because I was curious when I found out that it took you you added 2 more months so that you could finish the thesis. I was wondering like what
Mm.
what was the reason, and now I get why.
Hmm.
Um, so was that 2 months a lot more stressful for you, or did you feel like, oh, thank God, I have 2 more months to finish this. I won't have to crunch.
Hmm.
Like, what did you feel for
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that was a very up and down time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like you said, I felt relief, like, oh, thank God I have 2 months, like I have
Mm-hmm.
time to finish, because it basically took an extra month for the data to come in. And then
Mm-mm.
there was holiday that I was taking, so I was like, I need 2 months for this. So I was
See.
very relieved when that extension was approved, but
Mm-hmm.
also like hugely. I was really, really reluctant to take this extension. The main reason being that I wouldn't be finishing at the same time as all my other course mates. And that really
Mm-hmm.
like upset me at the time. I was like, they'll all be finished in August and they'll enjoy their summer holiday. They'll be celebrating together and I won't. I mean, I did go with them to celebrate. I took part in all the drinks afterwards,
Yeah.
but like it was very bittersweet because I was like, I have to then go back and continue working on the next Monday, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was like not having that like freedom that I knew that they felt at that time. I wanted to share it with them, and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't, and that was really annoying. But it is what it is, and I just had to, like kind of accept it. This is what it is. This is how I feel. But also like, let's get over it and focus. Like, I have a task to do. I have a thesis to finish. Like,
Yeah.
focus. And so I ended up working through my summer holiday. I worked while I was on holiday in Greece by
Oh.
the beach. That was like
Oh. Ooh.
exercising all the willpower that I had. I was like, disciplined. If there's any time to be disciplined, it's now. Like this, I'm just gonna be very single-minded. I need to finish this project, and I will do it any way possible. And that
Yep.
includes while on holiday.
Well,
Um,
that was a scenic thesis.
oh, it really
Gosh.
was. It was. I was very hot, looking at the beach, typing away, making graphs, and being like, oh, okay. I was almost. It was a nice environment to write in. That's what I told myself. I was like, if there's any place to write a thesis in, it's here by the beach. Um, but yeah, it was difficult, and I do think like I learned like so much. I learned so much in my thesis. It was like almost the best and worst part of my masters. I learned the most, suffered the most. But by the end of it, I was
Mm.
really proud of the work that I had done. And I did. One concern was that I wouldn't graduate on time. Was that I would submit my thesis too late, and they wouldn't be able to mark it, and then I wouldn't be able to then graduate with all my fellow classmates, and that really like
Mm-hmm.
also made me quite upset because I was like, I want to celebrate, like I want to have the ceremony with everyone. Um, because I think because of the pandemic and having not been close to people in person for a long time, I really valued those moments, like
Mm.
seeing people in person and celebrating in person. And I really wanted that to happen. Um, Thankfully it did, and I'm so grateful. But it might not have done, and that would have been a bit disappointing. But again, like these things just happen. Sometimes they're out of our control. Um,
Yeah.
I think the other thing about taking an extension is that, at least when I first started uni, I felt a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stigma around taking extensions. Um,
Yep.
yeah, like there's some almost like a shame to it, or like a, oh no,
People just
like,
not be pleasant.
yeah, like the reluctance to ask for extra time, even like when it's,
Oh yeah.
you definitely need it and it's like gonna be well used. There's a lot of that, right?
Yep.
um and some universities make it easier than others. Some of them make it more like accessible and open. Like my master's is very good in that they were very happy to give extensions, and they always mentioned that it's available if we needed it. They were very understanding that it was a really difficult course and extensions were available.
Hmm.
And as I went through university, I got more and more like okay with taking extensions. I'm like, I need extra time here. I'm really struggling. It's fine. I'll take it. If help is offered, guys, like it's, you know, it's fine to take it. It doesn't make the work that you do any less like valuable. And the point of uni is to learn. Like you're there to learn. You're not there to submit something at an arbitrary amount of time on an arbitrary date. Like the point is to learn, not to rush through things. Um, and again, that goes back to like, what are you at uni for? You're there to learn.
Hmm.
And if taking
Yeah.
like an extra 2 months or an extra 2 weeks to learn that thing properly and to do it properly, to get that valuable experience that you're paying for, that's like those extensions are fine. They're good.
They're
They're there for a reason.
they're
Um,
fine. It's not a shame. You
mm,
don't like sometimes you either have to meet somebody who did take it and are proud that they took whatever opportunity it was, or you have to meet somebody that absolutely regret not taking the opportunity. Be like the person who took the opportunity and is proud of it. Use it well,
mm,
because regret is a very heavy thing to have, especially when you're a student. Like, oh, I regret taking my course, or I regret doing this, I regret not doing this. It's it kind of takes so much, a lot of the fun out of studying, out of every experience. Like regret is just a monkey. The monkey did that. So yeah. Anyway. Um, where was I going with this? The Yeah. So extensions, ask for it. It's fine. You're fine. Um, but also like I get the feeling like, oh, I'm not gonna graduate at the same time. Like it's kind of lonely, and also like I gotta go back. I can celebrate with them, but I gotta go back.
yeah, yeah,
So, but but it worked out for you. Like
yeah.
I know that after you graduated, like you graduated like a month after your thesis was graded, right?
Mm,
So after you graduated, I think within a few months you already were in a paid internship in in a job. Oh, well, it wasn't a job yet, but you were an intern there, and it was a paid internship. Important people, like we, as much as we don't want to say it, we do need money to live. Um, it was like you didn't have to look for too long. You got something, you got to do something with what you studied, like with your master's degree. And how is that for you? Like it was quick, like you didn't have to look for too long, you didn't have to suffer through the
yeah.
job search,
It's
I think.
interesting that you say that it wasn't
Hmm.
too long, because it honestly felt like an age. It felt so long. And I know people say this all the time, job hunting, that really sucks. And I sympathize with anybody that is, job hunting right now or has to job hunt. I will, like we're going to go through this experience probably several times in our life. And it's kind of soul sucking sometimes. And so that's why it felt at the time like it took forever. And I think part of that reason was because I graduated later, I
Hmm.
and I wasn't looking for jobs over the summer. I wasn't like focused on that. I was like just focused on the thesis. Um, the job hiring season had passed by the time I started looking. So
Mm.
I did that very unhealthy thing where I compared myself to all my other classmates, who most of whom by the time I started looking had already got a job. And I was like, oh, I'm so behind. I mean, yes, of course I'm behind because I had this extension. But it didn't, it felt like it took a lot longer because I had, was putting expectations on myself of like,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I come out, I must have a job. Like immediately after, I had this thing of like, I must have this deadline. So that didn't help feelings. Um, but it was, yeah, it was difficult looking for a job when nobody was seeking to hire at
Uh-huh.
the time. There were like the sprinkles of things around. And I managed to grasp onto that internship. And I honestly, like, the internship was kind of like plan B because I really wanted a paid job out of
Mm-hmm.
uni, out of this master's, because I was like, I'm probably worth more than just an internship.
Yeah, yeah, of
I mean,
course you
like,
are.
I think so. Like maybe other companies don't. But I know for a fact that a lot of my other course mates did get a job straight afterwards. It's like, well, if they can do it, like, so can I. Um, but I went for the internship because nothing was appearing. And I was
Mm.
like, well, it's paid, it will give me good experience, and I can bounce from that onto something else, like onto a job. I'll have experience and I can use that. So I was like,
Yeah.
that's an opportunity, I will take it. And it was 3 months, which I shortened down to 2.5 because it was so bad that I left early.
Ah, okay.
And again, like, bad experience that I learned a lot from. Funny how that happens, right? Um, and yeah, it was it was really interesting. I now know what not like what to look for as like red flags in a company, right? Like before
Mm.
looking for
Yeah.
another job, which, like, the job that I have now is at a different company, and they're like the complete opposite, which is very
Ah, okay,
lovely.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a much better place now. Um, but it was, yeah, I kind of like took the internship a little bit out of desperation because I was like, I need to have a job straight away, and I felt a lot of pressure.
Mm.
Also because, like, where am I gonna get this money from? Like, I need to pay rent. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah,
bills are a great motivation for finding
they
a job.
really are. If anything is gonna motivate you, it's paying bills.
Like,
So
take your pick. Which one would be most important to you? Is it your rent? Is it your phone bill? Because or is it food? With
food,
me, it
yeah.
probably would be food. Like, I would steal my father's car and just, what did I just say? Never mind that. Ignore that. Ignore what I said. But yeah, food. My motivation is food. Like, yeah, money is unfortunately at the moment still everything because the world turns works with money.
Mm-hmm.
But at least now you are in a company that is a lot, I'm assuming, a lot healthier for you mentally,
100%.
physically. It's not as demanding. Not as if there's maybe a red flag somewhere, it's not a red flag for you. I hope you, just to explain what I meant, it's sometimes what you think is great might not be what's great for
Oh,
another person.
mm,
You know
for
what
sure, for sure, 100%. Like, for
I mean?
instance, the internship was completely, like, it was like fully remote. They had headquarters in London, so obviously I never went
Mm-hmm.
there.
Sorry.
So yeah, I never went to their headquarters in London. Everything was fully remote. I never met a single person in person, and that was very difficult for me at the time because, like, just not seeing anybody all day, working, and then not feeling like I had any connection.
Mm-hmm.
I know for some people that is like the cherry on top of a job. Like, that's what they want. They want to be fully remote. They don't want to interact with people. Like, that works for them. Doesn't work for me. So I look for a job that is hybrid because I want to be able to see people.
Mm. Oh, okay. So you do have time to be just working from home, and then you also have to go into the office.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah, it's really, really great.
It's interesting because most, not everyone, but most of the people I've met online through co-working streams and yeah, mostly through streaming, most of them actually prefer working from home because I don't want to be with people, that sort of thing. And it's interesting for me to know that you, out of everyone I've ever met on Twitch, you're the opposite. Like, oh, I want to work with people. I want to see
I just
people.
love it. I mean, I guess that's why I started streaming. I want to interact with people, right? Like
Mm-mm.
in like preferably in person, not all the time. I think my tolerance has definitely gone down.
Uh,
I get drained very easily with social interactions.
yeah.
I do think that's because of the pandemic, but like
Hmm.
I still need it to be like have a feeling fulfilled, feeling like my social bar is top, you know? I
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also just talking with colleagues, like arranging things, like communicating with them is just much easier in person. That
Mm-hmm.
little chit chat, you know, how's your day going? Like, are things difficult for you? Whatever. Like, having that connection is easier to build. Um,
In
but having like,
person.
yeah, it's easier to build in person. Building like a nicer, like a stronger social connection. Um,
Uh,
yeah, so I like
un-
that.
Understandable. So do you mind if I ask you about your work? Like, what exactly does your work, or what exactly do you work on?
Yeah, what do I do? What do I do all
Yeah, what do
day?
you do?
What do I do from 9 to 5? What do I do? So, um, I can say that I work with synthetic voices. We make voices for people that can't use their own voice. So I do a little bit of so like uh, Stephen Hawkins, for instance,
Yes, yes,
classic
I was gonna
example.
ask, like something
Yeah,
like Stephen
something like
Hawking.
Stephen Hawkins.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of everything throughout the day. I do a little bit of programming, a little bit of
Hmm.
design, a little bit of research, running experiments, doing data analysis. Um, it's really, for me, like having a nice range of things to do is,
Hmm.
I really like that. I like to like switch from things like from day to day or like within the day. um, like one day I might be working on a particular voice, and the next day I'll be looking into like a language for research purposes. And
Hmm.
having that variation, like I personally really love. Um, and it
You get bored.
also, hmm?
Do you get bored easily if it's just one thing all the time?
Probably not actually,
Okay.
because my thesis was just one thing all the time. But but I think
But you like variety.
I like, yeah, I guess I like variety. I think different parts of the job are fulfilling in
Hmm.
different ways. Like in the
Yeah.
research aspect, it's very fulfilling to be like, oh, we can like make these numbers better, you know, like we can improve the system in this way, like make the product like work better. But
Uh-huh.
then in the other side of work, it's like I'm helping people, like I'm genuinely trying to make this person's life better with this product that I'm like improving for them, like this voice that I'm making for them. Um, so
Hmm.
it's nice and varied, and it's like fulfilling in different ways, and I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, so that's what I do.
So because I remember, I think somebody told me that your job was speech scientist. So that was very interesting for me to hear. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, I don't know what that means. Like, it's job titles are strange. Something I also
Mm,
learned
true, true.
while looking for jobs is that job titles, like, sometimes they don't
There's
really
some,
mean much.
yeah, or sometimes they're misleading. Like speech scientist, and then
Like,
scientist is such a broad term.
it
Like,
really
what does
is.
that even mean? And
Yeah,
then,
and it encompasses like a little bit of what I do, but I would say like there's no one term for what I do. So I guess like speech sciences is this is the best I can do. It
okay,
kind of fits. I do deal with speech. I do some science, right? I'm running
yeah,
experiments. But yeah, like it's yeah, some job titles are more descriptive than others. Mine is very broad.
yeah. Okay, just a quick trying to understand this one.
Hmm.
Was your internship different from the job you have right now, or like the type of work you did in your internship? Was it different?
Yeah. Well, kind of. Like I still did a lot of programming.
Hmm.
The product was very different. It was in speech recognition. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
Part of the product was speech recognition. What I was doing was speech. Yeah, I worked in like the speech recognition bit of the team.
Okay.
Um, right now I do speech synthesis.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess like in terms of what I actually did though, I guess it was kind of similar. I still used Python. I still like was programming. But there
Hmm.
was I personally didn't really do much science stuff. The programming I did was like very base. I did a lot of like text processing, which
Okay.
can be interesting, but was kind of very tedious. It was just like cleaning up lots of data. Um, I guess it was kind of similar. Brought like in the grand scheme of things, it was quite similar. But one thing I learned again from the internship that I learned the hard way was that the company that I worked for and what they do really makes a difference to how I feel. I mean, saying that out loud obviously kind of sounds obvious now, but I think for me, I learned that it impacts me quite a lot for my motivation. If I don't feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile, or I believe in the product that I'm helping create, then
Hmm.
my motivation just like tanks. I'm like, what am I doing here? Um, and I learned that because like, yeah, I learned that through the internship. Basically, I just didn't believe in the product. I didn't really want to contribute to it. Whereas the job I have now is like a 180. Like I love the products that we make. I really believe in what we do, and
Hmm.
yeah, so like I'm completely motivated to work. Like I look forward to it.
Okay. So we are a little over an hour now, so and we do have a Q&A section that we still have to work on. So I just have maybe two more questions. Um, so how
Um,
how did it feel transitioning from being a student to now working, and not just from being from uni to also after your masters, you know that you're worth a little more to finding a job. How did it feel that you were transitioning out of the education system, so to speak?
um, I think. Wait, before I answer, are we still live?
I believe we still are, just a bit laggy. That's why I
Oh,
am.
okay. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yes, yes. Kitty said yes,
Um,
yes.
okay, cool. Just a bit laggy. Okay, cool. Hi. So sorry, that was like transitioning from
From studying like
studying to
uni to masters, and then
work.
from to work. Yeah, to work.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is the free time. I like we mentioned this before. Like, what do you do with your free
Hmm.
time? Like
Yeah.
that, I have free time now. I guess during uni, I guess it's a mindset thing, right? Like, I had free time during uni. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I had weekends. It wasn't like I had class every day.
Yeah, yeah,
But personally, I couldn't. I found it really hard to feel free if I had things due, if I had an assignment due or an exam
yeah.
to study for, or like if I have assignments, feel I felt a lot of pressure to just always be studying and to always be working. Um, and yeah, that kind of like grind culture of like just constantly be improving yourself, constantly be studying. I know like a lot of people relate to this. Um, I'm very jealous of the
Oh yeah.
people that don't relate to this. But yeah, like I never felt free even if I was, because I put pressure on myself to try and always be doing something and like studying. Um, so now when I have that I'm not studying anymore and I don't have assignments and I don't have like deadlines like that, and I have just a 9 to 5 and I'm only expected to work during those hours, I have this like huge sense of freedom. Like I
I
had
see.
weekends that were mine again, or like I felt that they were fully mine, like for the
Mm.
first time in years. And like that's so good. And I don't want to give this up for a long time. I'm not saying I'll never go back to study,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
right now I really don't want to. Like I'll never close any doors. Like my
Hmm.
mind can change,
Yeah, of course.
right? But I like for now, I don't want to be a student again. I love working. I love being a person with a job that like has a
Fair.
9 to 5 as well. Like again, this is just me. I like to have a structured day, and I don't think I could do like a freelance gig type of work. Like, organizing myself, I can do it. Don't necessarily like to do it. Yeah, like
That's
very impressed.
like it's fun to hear that because when oh, some of my classmates when we were studying, they felt like this was after I checked in with them again a few like last year I think was the last time I met with some of my old classmates. Like I asked them how is it working compared to when we were still studying back in. Some of them are friends from high school, some of them friends from uni. I asked them, and they felt like I had more time for myself back when we were studying. I'm like, oh, really? And
Wow.
yeah, they explained that once you do your schoolwork, it's done. The teacher can't text you. The teacher can't tell you like, okay, you still have to do this. Like, nah, you submitted it, you're done. You did the exam, you're done. The grades, if they don't give you the grade, then that's their fault. But basically, you're done. Um, and when I asked them like, why? What about your job? And they're like, yeah, our boss would just sometimes email us at the dead hours, and I'm like, oh no. I get it.
No.
Like, I guess it also depends on the type of job they have. But I didn't ask what job they had. Some of them did tell me that they're more of like secretariat work. Some of them are in research, and
Mm,
sometimes their research to um, the research partners are in different countries and all that. And it's just me.
yeah.
And that's why it surprised me that you feel like you have more free time now that you're working compared to when you were a student. Because I love that there's a difference in experience.
That is so
Abs-
interesting. Yeah. Like hearing you say that, it makes me think that maybe that pressure, like the reason it's different is because it comes from a different place for different people. So for me, it came from myself. Like I put pressure on
mm,
myself during school to like achieve grades, like deadlines. Like you said, once you submit the homework, you're done. I'm like, you're never done. Like there's always more reading you can do, like reading. And a lot of the assignments that I had were like over several weeks. Like in the UK, they're normally
ah,
like big assignments, like
mm-hmm.
several weeks long, worth like 50%. Um,
Oh,
so it's not like little bits of homework. It's like a big
uh,
thing that just like you constantly have to do all the time. And then there's like reading for each lecture. Like there's often too much reading. Anyway, like
fair.
I would put that pressure on myself, but it sounds like the people you're talking about, they're more thinking of it like their teachers. Like I never felt pressure from any of my lecturers. Like I got the impression that they didn't really care either way what I did. Like I could just
Mm,
do whatever I could. I just could not hand something in, and they might be concerned, but I like didn't feel any pressure whatsoever from them. It all came from me. So now at work, yeah, like obviously I'm working my best. I'm performing at my best. I want to do well because I believe
mm,
in the work that I do and I want it to be good.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
but I know that it's just 9 to 5, and I can stop. And I yeah, I think I maybe will end up working for a company that has like bosses that message you in the middle of the night and that you have to like reply and you have to be on call at that time.
Hmm.
Maybe that will happen, but I will try my best to avoid that kind of work because I
Please
don't
do.
think that would be good.
Please do. I
Yeah.
I think she never pressured like the classmate I'm talking about. She never pressured herself, mostly
Mm,
because I she never bragged about it, but our teachers did. She had one of the highest IQ among our student body, and studying for her was so easy. That's why I think she was able
right.
to say that. And I guess it's also very different. Like she, as a child, she's always been like head to foot in books. Like
Okay.
you would never see her. Like she would play. She knows how to play. She is great at tackling, and I didn't even realize that she could play a form of um, it's a you toss the ball at people, and
Like
I don't know.
rugby?
It's like a dodgeball. It's like dodgeball, but a weird version that we
Okay.
had locally in our school. And she was awesome at that, which I never expected because she was just like
Good at
every free
everything.
time she has a book, book, or her tablet are all ebooks. And I'm like, I okay, sure. And but I guess that's also why. And her she never felt pressure during school because she could process information so quickly. But she
Mm-hmm.
felt a lot more stress dealing with work because it wasn't as structured. Like there weren't schedules like we
Oh my
had when we
goodness.
were in school.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge thing. I've heard that from other people as well, that like
Hmm.
they enter a job and they're like, I don't know what to do. Like they're not telling me what to do. Like there's no instructions book to follow of like, do this now, do this now, do this. And there's no one
Hmm.
there to hold your hand, right? Like I think in some universities or like education systems, it might be so structured that when you go into like the real, not the real world, when you go into a different job, it's like it's you have to like think for yourself a bit more, and that can be difficult for some people to adjust to, which again, like I'm lucky that the thesis that I had,
Hmm.
like I learned, I think, most of those skills from the thesis, because yes, I had a supervisor, but he's not going to tell me what to do. I have to work these things out for myself, decide what the best procedure is to take, and
Hmm.
like if I don't know how to do something, I have to learn it. Like I can't ask him. Like I just have to learn it myself if I don't know what to do. And that was like that gives you a lot of confidence as well to be like, okay, if I face a problem, I know I can solve it. Like I've solved other problems before, so it's a really
Yeah.
nice like way of like learning that in a controlled environment, like in a thesis or in a like a project at school,
Hmm.
and then taking that confidence into the workplace. So like quite often I'll find, oh, at work I'm like, okay, they tell me to do something, but they're very hands off. They're like, go do this, and I'm like any way I like I can just do it. Like I make the decisions now. It's like, yeah, I make the decisions, and if maybe there's some concern, like I'll check in with them and be like, I'm going to be changing this. Do you think that's okay? And they're like, fine, or not fine.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, having like that unstructured system at work, like being able to think for yourself a bit more freely, for some people that might be really difficult. And like
Yeah.
I had that experience before, so it was okay.
Sorry, I got slightly distracted. My best friend, I told my best friend like I look so meh. My best friend immediately says, "You're a middle-aged woman now. You're fine." I'm like, okay,
Oh
sir.
my god,
Thank you.
I found a grey hair. Speaking of being older, I found a grey hair on my head the other day. I'm very proud of it. I feel like all my wisdom is contained in that little strand, and I want to keep it safe, keep it protected.
I had a gray, just one gray hair early. I had it when I was 18, and I was so mad when I lost it because you can see
No.
my hair is long. Like for my height,
Damn.
my hair is down to my butt.
Oh my
I
god.
had I had one white hair that was the same length. And
Should
I
have like
lost it.
kept it in a box.
I didn't know that it had fallen off. So it's like,
Oh no.
but anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, like growing older as well, and I think that's also when the pressure of finding a job just hits. Like, ooh, I'm growing
Mm.
older. I can't depend on other people. I can't depend on my parents anymore because Jesus, I am old. I'm not a child anymore. I'm their child still, like of course, but
You always
I'm not a
be, yeah.
child.
Yeah.
Eh,
But
I'm an Asian, so even more so
I guess
for some reason.
we are still, yeah, we're growing older, and like yes, we have more responsibility, but it's also
Yep.
like that doesn't mean that we won't fuck up and make mistakes, and that we should know what to do. Like I don't know what I'm
True.
doing. I'm still learning. No one knows
True.
what they're doing. Some people
That's
have different experiences and have learned from them. But like you know, like just because now we're looking for jobs and now we have like pensions or whatever, like
true.
it's still there's still lots to learn, and it's still fine if you don't know, and things are just
Yeah.
weird, and no one teaches you these things, which is why we're having this interview, right? Like,
Yeah.
no one like uni doesn't prepare you for this because that's not what it's for. It's for like academics and teaching you how to be an academic. Like,
That's true. Like,
learning how to live in the real world is a different course altogether.
yeah, that's why when sometimes when people graduate, they feel like, holy Lord, what world is this? I
Mm-hmm.
do not know this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna hide now.
Yeah, it can be really
And they
difficult.
just it's an interesting thing. That's why we decided that that's what we want to talk to you about. Like, what did it feel like for you being a student, actually studying to have a master's degree as well? Then the change from being from studying to working like that, like because not everyone's experience is the same, but we believe that letting other people know what we've experienced can help them. Maybe they're not
Yeah.
exactly the same, they might
Yeah.
find something similar, but yeah. So where was I? And that's also kind of why Erudita decided that we're gonna have a summer school. We're gonna make it free as well, like
Yes.
because I know you mentioned that you kind of came from a place of privilege. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you were choosing your course, like you were able to choose it technically freely. Like you were encouraged to study whatever. That's also kind of the point why Erudita decided, you know what, we're gonna make, we're gonna, we're gonna make a, we're gonna make a summer school, at least for the community, and that anyone who wants to learn can join. Like, um, what do you feel, or do you feel like education is still somewhat maybe or reach
Oh my god, yeah.
the reach for education? I'm glad that you kind of understand
I
where I'm going
understand
at.
what you're
I'm
like.
like,
Yeah,
woo,
like, like accessibility to education, like
that
freedom to
one.
right to education, right to free education. Yeah, I
Hmm.
am. I'm so for it. So, um, yeah. So maybe I misspoke earlier. Um, I didn't quite
Maybe
come from
maybe I
earlier.
misheard.
No, so like I didn't come from like complete privilege going into uni. It's just that my parents just encouraged that. They were like, "Don't think about
Mm-hmm.
money. Like, don't let it concern you."
Ah,
Um,
okay.
which is like a like a nice mindset to have. But the way that I got through uni was like, oh, and my education in general was like through scholarships and grants. Like I made use of so many different like financial resources. I also had that
Mm-hmm.
part-time job. So like going through uni, I had a lot of like financial help. And even for this master's, I postponed it for a year to save up money because you don't get like when you do a master's in the UK, you don't get as much funding for it. You have to like supplement it yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to save up for a year, like that pushed everything back, like trying to work, like streaming to earn money while doing my like education, like that obviously makes it
Yeah.
harder. Um, so yeah, definitely like my education and finance has definitely been like intertwined a lot in ways I wish it wasn't. Um, yeah, like I'm very grateful that I was able to take all these courses at uni through like financial aid.
Mm-hmm.
But I like feel like it shouldn't be like that's obviously limited. That financial aid is limited, and it like more people should have access to that, right? To like fulfill their potential and then contribute back to society. Like it's a net good that people get
Yes.
educated.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this, but so in England, university is not free. It was free several years ago, and
Oh.
then they introduced
Okay.
tuition costs, and they have like tuition loans. So you can get, I think everybody can get a loan like for the tuition costs. Um, but obviously, like now I'm in debt, like huge tuition loans. Um, but in Scotland, it's like
Mm-hmm.
university is free for, I might like please fact check this, but Scottish university is free for like Scottish citizens and international students, not for not for English people, not for British people. Um, but I had to come here and pay. Um, but yeah, like I feel like that's such a nicer model to have, right? Like education, like uni has taught me so much. Like, granted, not necessarily so much about like directly working outside of uni, but there are so many things I've taken from it. It's made me like a much more productive person now. Like, I'm
Mhm.
the job that I'm doing now, I feel like I'm really helping other people, and that's
Yeah.
because I've had this education. Um, and it's like that. I really wish it was freely available to everybody, because the impact that everybody could then make would be insane. Yeah.
You don't have to study all of the sciences to help to
Oh god,
contribute
no.
back, but just I don't know. Especially okay. You're from the UK. You're this is a bad joke, but it's a joke I make. When I meet a when I meet a person from a country that is a colonizer, because I'm a colony. So my country, I'm from Southeast Asia. So my country was handed around basically first by the Spanish and then America, and then yeah. Anyway, um, it's even harder to have an education here. Like
Hmm.
we're lucky whenever there are what do you call this? When there are like countries that want to provide free education, outreach programs, missionary programs for our poorer areas. Because I'm lucky, I live in technically a city, a metropolis. Although I'm not at the city center. I'm more of the not too much of the outskirts, but right outside the city. Um, and it's at least the kids here, my neighbors, they're able to actually study. But when I was working at the government, yeah, I worked for the government for a little bit, and I was in the department city disaster. So we handled disaster, disaster planning, disaster mitigation, things like that. Um, one part of our work was to reach out to local government units, especially the small units, to train like personnel there, like how to respond to first aid, like what causes flash floods, how to respond to disasters, because my city is a varied geography. We have a mountain. We also are facing the ocean, not the ocean, the sea, and then farmlands. There are parts that are also farmlands, and then we also have a lot of industries here. Like one of them is used to be a refinery, oil refinery. So the area of the city is very varied. So as government workers, we had to like figure out what we can't just have a one size fits all program for all of the places here, because some of them they're up in the mountains, some of them are right below the mountain. So who's going to be affected by a flash flood more, a mudslide, a landslide? How would the ones at the top and the ones at the bottom be affected? Those kind of things. And I swear, when I heard some of the government officials, they're already government officials, they were voted into, although it's a small office, they were voted into office. The way they answered the most basic questions about the environment, about weather, when they answered me, I felt like I was talking to a toddler. And it was a 40-year-old man answering me, and know the he did not know what I was asking for. He did not know um like what causes things to happen for a flash flood to happen. Anyway, yeah, the cause of a flash flood, basically that thing. uh, it was kind of sad because I realized like which generation he was in, and then when we observed the area, the kids, the other members of the community, it was also not that great. There's a local school, but and it's technically free, but it's only from first grade to sixth grade. So around maybe 6 years old to 12 or 7 to 12. That's it. And then you're gonna have to pay for high school. You're gonna have to pay for all of that. So sometimes they just opt not to because money.
Yeah.
Again, we're back to money. No money. So yeah, it's access is important, but the lack of access is really shows. So and sometimes it's such a backwards view of how sometimes they would give us an answer to a very simple question about health, and they would give us such a backwards answer that I don't even know where it came from. I don't even know how to correct it sometimes. So I would just have to go back to what's written down already in our presentation, and I don't know how to force feed it into them so that they know what to do in case somebody gets trapped in a mudslide or drowns, almost drowns, some things like that. And it's education is just,
So
I wish
valuable.
it's free.
Yeah. Yeah, like
And
whatever it is that you actually study, like the act of learning and
mhm,
like critically thinking, like
yeah,
being
that
able to
also.
work a problem out.
Mhm.
It's like in whatever field, it's so valuable in just everyday life.
And yeah, that's why we are hoping that Erudita will continue with the free lessons. Maybe also one day we could ask you to be a guest
Ooh.
lecturer, either maybe for coding a specific language program or something like that. Maybe like
Would have a
we're
massive imposter syndrome, but
imposter syndrome.
uh,
Oh, that
good old
did
friend.
you ever feel that by the way when you started working like
Yeah,
this
of course.
imposter syndrome?
Yeah, huge. Always. I don't think it ever really leaves you, if I'm honest. Like
Mhm.
I've heard from people that are 30 years, 50 years into their career and they're like they mention imposter syndrome all the time. So I think it's just natural, natural
Mhm.
part. It's just something we face and have to get over. Have confidence.
Yes, have confidence that you actually learned something from
Yeah,
the
you have
things
something
that you
valuable
were
to bring to
doing.
the table from your
Yeah.
experience, like not just your education, but like where you've
Mhm.
come from, like your lived experience. You can like have so much impact, like more than you realize, right? Like that's diverse. Like that's why having diverse teams is really,
Mhm.
really valuable.
You know, diverse team, so working with people from every and all walks of life that willing to work with you.
Mm.
All right. Well, okay. So that is all of my questions, Rumble. I am so happy that we were finally able to like do this. We got you to be part of our interviews,
Mm.
and so we are actually technically end of the interview of my interview with Rumple. Okay, but we are opening up the stage, like a literal stage on Discord. So we will be moving over to Discord so that we can, as a community, can ask Rumple questions that they may have that we were not able to cover during this time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really impressed and really grateful that you guys are doing this project. It's this summer school as well. It's really, really admirable. And I hope to
Thank
see you guys in the Discord so you can ask me questions. I have so
Yes,
much more to say, obviously.
yes,
So yeah,
yes.
see you well. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.